Wonderful May morning to you from Hopalong Hollow. This is Jerry, and I'm standing in my front yard garden, which once upon a time was nothing but lawn. Of course, we're still surrounded by lawn, but you've got to have a little bit of grass because that's what frames your garden. The sidewalks, the fences, the little borders, that's what frames your garden and makes it really stand out. Now this, as you can see, is quite a boisterous garden. It's a country garden. It's a cottage garden. It's the only kind of garden I grow. I like them. They're carefree. They're jubilant. They're romantic. And they're friendly. Country gardens are just friendly. Now, I want to show you what's growing in here at this time. You might have an idea to start your own front yard garden. Pull up some grass. You could start with a little corner like I did right here. Just started right there in that corner. It's been a couple years, of course, but it took a while to get this vast. And I really couldn't take up any more of the front yard because I have the whole thing. But we've got everything from irises to herbs to roses to pretty much wild native plants, clematis, and little bushes and trees growing in here. And it is really a wonderful sight. And you come around the bend here to see what's blooming now. It's just packed in here. I mean, seriously, these are not weeds, none of them. These are daffodils that just bloomed, and the California and the English bluebells had already bloomed. You can just see their seeds now. Now we've got the roses coming up. And the irises. Look at the beautiful contrast of those hot pink roses against the purplish blue of those irises and the clematis. But what's growing in here? Rudbeckia, down here on the bottom. And sedum is a wonderful plant, especially for a beginner. I love the grayish-green color of the succulent leaves of the sedum, and they're so easy to grow. All you have to do is pull a couple stems of those sedum. Just break off a couple little bits and you can plant that, or you can just drop it on the ground, and I swear to you it will take into a plant. The sedum on this property all came from 2 little stalks of sedum that I found growing in a ditch around here. Happy accidents happen in a country garden all the time. I did purposely plant the lavender border with every other lavender, catmint, lavender, catmint. I did that just in case the lavender didn't come up, because I do have my problems with lavender. But the little blooms of the catmint are just about the same color as lavender. Of course, they don't smell like that, but they are very beautiful. And wow, what a happy accident to see them next to these kind of apricot-y peach-like little ground roses coming up. What a pretty color combination. That's what happens in gardens. Things just volunteer, and you end up with all kinds of things you never would have thought of on your own. Now we've got some blank spots here, which absolutely do have some weeds and some grasses in there. That's good. I want to put some zinnia seeds, some cosmos seeds in there. Another easy plant to grow are rows of Sharon bushes. I call them hollyhock trees because they're a member of the mallow family, and they grow little blooms just like the hollyhock, but they don't die an ugly death as do hollyhocks, which I also love. They just stay green and they just get nice and full and keep on growing. There's bee balm behind that. There are daylilies. Another wonderful plant. You really must buy about 1,000 of these little seeds for these evening primrose pink. They go with every garden. They're just wonderful. They'll reseed constantly, and they're delicate pink little flowers. Behind them are evening primrose, not opened yet, but they're yellow evening primrose. They'll be opening pretty soon. Also in here we have much phlox, a beautiful beloved country flower. Now my phlox I usually grow from roots because I don't do well with phlox seeds for some reason. We do have a lot of that in here too. Now along the back you might see, it's kind of camouflaged by now, is the cattle panel that I use often on this property. We attached this long piece of cattle panel to the 2 picket fence anchors on either side of the garden here. And the reason for that is that I wanted to make a living wall to have a nice backdrop for this garden. So what's climbing on that are climbing roses, we've got clematis, and volunteer honeysuckle. Honeysuckle is just one of those native plants that likes to come in and kind of take over. So why not put it to work? And so instead of it crawling all over the ground in there, it's climbing up and making a nice green wall for me. This is a Crape Myrtle tree, very popular here in East Tennessee. Another butterfly bush. They're pretty young right now. Somewhere in there I got a butterfly bush. I bought it at the Biltmore, and it's so small that I don't see anything of it right yet. But I certainly hope that comes up. Got it from the Biltmore Gardens. I just wanted a little piece of Biltmore to bring home with me. Here's this border again. On the opposite side of that garden is another garden, which is also a front yard garden. You may wonder why I always have all these barricades up, and it's because I have a problem that most of you probably don't have. I have free-range birds. Chickens and peacocks are known for taking dirt baths whenever they see any fresh and inviting soil. They want to get in there and dig, dig, dig. And this just keeps my young plants safe from marauding chickens. And what I have in here are some little hardy geraniums that I have split apart because I want this just full of hardy geraniums and short things such as the muscari that already bloomed. But look at those interesting little seed pods. I should take those off, but I find them rather fascinating. I like them. I just don't know the names, the scientific names of any plants, but you know, why would you want to use a scientific name when you have such beautiful flower names like geranium and ivy and iris and sunbonnets, the sunflowers and poppies, and here we have the peonies. This is the peony part of the garden. This is another easy plant to grow from a root. I'll put a link on where I buy my roots because I buy hostas, peonies, and phlox and geraniums from roots. And roots seem to take very well. It's easier than growing from a seed, and yet you don't have to pay the full price that you would for a potted plant. It's a good way to start a garden. Spiderwort. This is an odd plant. I remember buying about 5 of them from a catalog. Didn't really even know what they were going to look like, but they were roots. More like rhizomes, I guess you would say. It's got really crazy octopus-like leaves and a very odd little flower. But it's one of those plants that you can split apart because they really do become very prolific in and of themselves, sort of like daffodils. They start to clump up and you can split them apart and put them in just about any garden. They really do prefer a shade garden. Now these are violets, and they are sometimes considered weeds because they do grow in your lawn. But I use these for all sorts of fill-in. They produce beautiful little heart-shaped leaves. They also have a little purple flower that appears twice a year. But they are so prolific that they could be a real nuisance if you don't like them, because I swear their germination rate must be about 100%, because you will find all kinds of little baby violets underneath them, and they will spread, they will cover your whole place. But this is a good way to start a garden if you don't have anything in it. They are a wonderful ground cover, and they're easy to pull up. If you don't want them in there, let's say you want to plant some seeds in this spot right here, just pull up about 10 of those violet plants and you've got a nice clear spot. With no weeds, they were just violets that were growing there. And they're pretty. They're very pretty. So they're my friend in the garden. What else have we got here? Oh, I know what we've got. This cattle panel, once again, I have to keep my dogs and my digging birds out of the garden, and therefore I was trying to train this ivy to climb up this cattle panel. It's doing a good job to make it a little bit more presentable, but somebody did sneak into the garden. But she has a good reason to be here, because this is Zuza, and she's sitting on about 12 eggs. Hi, Zuzi. Good job, girl. I hope they all hatch so we have baby ducklings. We need some more ducks around here. So over here you get to the shady side with the Japanese maple. There are many hostas and daylilies and iris growing in here. And this garden is kind of more like a woodsy look with the spiderwort, the periwinkle that I got from the woods. There's some lemon balm in here. Lemon balm can be a very aggressive plant in your garden too, so watch out if you plant it. You might want to put lemon balm in a pot. And another wonderful, easy to grow plants are hostas. I really didn't like hostas for a long time. I just thought they were boring, but they're not boring. They actually produce some long spikes which produce flowers late in the year, and they come in all kinds of colors, leaf patterns, and what would I do without hostas in a shade garden? So, how do you make a garden? Front yard garden? Well, you pick a spot that you want to start with, usually a nice little corner, and you lay down some cardboard. On top of that, you put about 6 inches of compost, and that is how you start your front yard garden. Now, of course you want some grass, because grass and walkways, they frame your garden. If you've got a boisterous garden like this, and this is the only kind of garden I have, are boisterous gardens, then you really need somewhere to rest the eye, and that's where the grass comes in. So the grass is beautiful too. But nothing quite compares to a front yard garden in place of a lawn. So think about it. Hop along hollow. This is Jerry. Oh, and Mr. Peabody up on the roof.